Hello, beautiful people. Hey, we got another TA report going on. 2 weeks in a row, guys.
Nice. Did you tweet it out?
We're officially streaking now. No, I'm twatting it out right now. And we would appreciate everyone's questions tonight because it's been one of those weeks again. Still recovering here in Bagsland. Hey, Nick, you were saying about the candle, or how you think this setup might look. Please expand.
Well, no, I was just saying, like in past conversations, we've been talking about like more on the bullish side, and I can't remember what that it might have been, like LRCX or LMT, but the point was that it was a good looking candle, and it was at all-time highs, but it like price got like right there, but it couldn't close at all-time highs, right? And then remember that conversation, and then like sure
Absolutely.
shit, the thing freaking rolled. Now, like
literally, it was the next day where you were looking at it and be like, this is amazing, and my thought process was, agree, that's a beautiful candle, but on a beautiful candle it couldn't take out the prior day's high or all-time high, and you're like, that's highly, to me that was suspect. And literally that's the last time LRCX has like hit that level, right? Like,
yeah,
it was straight down after that. It was
whoop.
It was our January 14th podcast or whatever it was, January 13th podcast.
Yeah, so like it kind of, I mean, it kind of has me thinking along those lines. On the individual names, there were some ugly looking bars. In some names, Tesla obviously, like, that engulfed the whole day or the whole Thursday's bar, but like the SPY and the Qs, they retraced about 50% of Thursday's bar, and price basically closed at that pivot low, that like, what are those, 350, 360 pretty much. And for how nasty it was, you would have thought that like maybe the indexes would have sold off harder. I mean, it just kind of, I'm trying to be a little optimistic here. That and you'd kind of expect it to be a little messy around here, just being that we're sitting on both the SPY, well, the Qs are now under that 4-year moving average. IWM as last month it closed below that moving average, but the SPY is kind of flirting with it right now.
I just don't think
think
those are important, right? Like,
no,
we are so far in historic moves in terms of like a rising 200 SMA. The first touch should typically be a point where you see some type of bounce or anything. We're breaking through everything. So to me, those moving averages have not been real on the upside. Yes, 21-day or 50-day or whatever it is. On the upside, they've definitely been the caps, but on the downside, they're not important to me. Like, I have them into just like you, Nick, but as a point of reference on how we are. Yeah, from those moving averages, but those are not support, not in 2022, right?
Is anything support in 2022?
Yeah,
it's no, yeah, for sure.
To me, like, I'm Friday's candle was obviously felt disgusting, right? Like, that was like, yes, we're finally gonna go. 10 minutes in, we were done.
Yeah.
And this is low liquidity, right? So you have these moves, and it wasn't a big rejection on the 10 after the 2 5-minute candles. The third 5-minute candle wasn't a huge rejection. It wasn't a lot of volume, but it was enough to start trickling down, right? That negative gamma squeeze, whatever you want to call it, and then the market dynamics took over, right? It was just people were like, oh my God, that's a failure. Let me go buy 0 DTE puts.
But I mean, I won nicely on some puts Friday after missing Thursday's calls. But I mean, this has been the pattern of 2022. It shouldn't have been a surprise to anyone. Like, there has been no follow through other than to the downside.
Yeah.
So why do we think Thursdays is going to hold?
But Thursday's pattern was not typical to 2022, right? It is the only candle that is actually engulfed the prior 2 to 3 days. It is wholeheartedly, in my opinion, different than every other bottoming.
I mean,
candle.
we can split hairs.
No, I disagree with that. The 224 bar, I was comparing Thursday's bar to 220, like February 24th.
This one right here.
Just being that we gapped basically down below those kind of pivot
and then fired up
pivot low and then rip. But to your point, you're right.
It didn't take out the prior day's high.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't an engulfing bar. It was just a big ass bar on volume.
It was a big ass bar on volume that people weren't expecting off the. It was like that. This is a big ass bar off of what they were already expecting, right? Like CPI data was going to come in hot. Everyone knew it was going to come in hot, and yet we still opened down 3%, and we engulfed the prior 3 days. We did not engulf on any other reversal bar, and Friday's bar was definitely a gut punch. I'm not arguing that conversation. But my initial reaction off the morning rejection, which I was expecting, right? So as soon as the market opened, I had some overnight Friday positions. I closed out of them within the first, I closed out of most of them and left some runners in case it did, fake to the bottom and then go higher for the rest of Friday. But what I was expecting, if you look at the candles, I was thinking more, if we do reject here, it's going to look like May 4th, May 5th. Right. That's kind of what I was kind of looking at. I see what
you're saying.
But right. So that's but once again, we didn't break on almost every rejection like this. We've broken the prior day's lows. We did not break the prior day's lows here. Right.
Sure.
On this heavy hard of a rejection, you would have expected that to be completely engulfed like we have every other time, and it's possible that we could do it Monday.
I mean, I hear you, GP, and we dedicated a portion of an episode to how we can't trust these chart patterns and candles, and right now, I don't give a shit that Thursday's engulfed Wednesday. Like,
this is perfect.
I don't care. The action is still to the fucking downside. So, I mean, until the market can actually show some price action follow through to the upside, which this period in July and August is the first real shot at doing it till it fell off a damn cliff. Like, I'm not looking at one day's candle and being like, this is different. This is different. I was ready to go cash in hand Friday morning and give me some fucking puts, and I made over 100% on my puts because it was like this is textbook 2022. The candle may look a little different, but the price action remains the same.
If you are buying the morning, right? But if you had held puts overnight thinking that Thursday's move was going to be a fake out and we're going to lose it on Friday, right? Like no one believed on Thursday, really across the board. Everyone thought Friday was going to happen as is, so people weren't actually that surprised. But if you were holding puts overnight, you got obliterated.
Well, yeah, no, I'm not.
You had to be
the opportunity to buy
941. Let me go buy some puts.
I had the opportunity to buy puts Thursday near the close. I didn't. I was like, I'm going to wait till Friday. And then Friday, I'm sitting here seriously with my bags of cash, just being like, I'm going to buy some puts. And I'm pumped about it. And when I saw that morning spike, I'm like, shit, yeah.
Yeah, and it worked, right? I'm not arguing that it didn't work, but you had to be an active intraday trader to make this money, right? You can't. I'm talking about like overall,
Phil, right there, boom.
Anyway. Yeah, like if you had just taken the low off the opening 10-minute bar and taken that short, you were doing well. But we didn't break down. We did break down, don't get me wrong, in terms of like intraday action, but to me this is different. And I know I've said that all throughout the year, so you don't trust me on it. I hear
Wednesday
you.
We closed at 356.56. Friday we closed at 357.63. So I mean, if we're cheering on, we made $1 from Wednesday to Friday, then bang on, more power to you. But again, the price action is still shit. Every chart out there, I did a whole chart storm on Charts for Charity this morning, and nothing has gotten me out of my bear suit yet. There's still 2 weeks in the month, and I believe the first 2 weeks of November are also going to be important. But time's ticking. I'm looking at my watch. Tick, 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 tick. We've been saying this for 10 months now. Price action still shit. I mean, we're not gonna have a moment where all of a sudden it's like fake missiles in the air and now it's time to buy the bottom. Like, right? I'm not saying that I'm ready to call a bottom. I'm not saying that we might, Thursday's action to the downside and then trampolining up, that very well could be the bottom. I'm not saying it's not, and I'm not saying it is. It is yet to be proven. And unless we just jump up all of a sudden, like, I don't know what I'm going to say, like 15% this week, which ain't happening. I don't feel like I've missed anything by not deploying any more longs into this.
And what if we get that? What if we get that 15% week this week, right? Like,
what if we do? I mean, that would be incredible, but we're not going to get a 15% week on the SPY this week.
Yeah, and you say it so confidently, and I love it. And
15% on the index on the S&P 500. I mean, we're not talking fucking, I don't know, something much more volatile. We're talking the S&P 500. We're not getting.
So we're fine. Like, okay, maybe not 15%, but would you still be surprised with 10%?
Yes, I would be surprised at a 10% week. Absolutely.
Okay.
I hope it happens. I've still got longs. I'm still in the game, but I mean, I'm not putting extra cash to work on what I see as still potential downside. I mean, what's the chart, the market psychology chart that has like the first dip and non-believers, and then it's like the huge dip. I mean, we might be at the huge dip. Michael Burry, who you guys know I love and idolize, he tweeted and deleted something that looked kind of like that this morning. But here, let me drive this shit show real quick. Let's share a chart. Let's look at Datadog, a company that I really like. But you tell me. I mean, does that look like something that you want to be involved in right now?
I'm going to share a chart at some point in this pod, and
I mean, let's look at something else. Something you guys know I really like. Sentinel-1, right? Like I said last week, you tread water until you're fish food, right? Treading water, bloop. You know what else looks like that? Your baby, Netflix. Treading water.
Netflix
Earnings
actually looks all right.
Accelerating volume. It
is earnings this week, right?
Yep.
Treading water. I hope it goes bananas to the upside. I hope it goes like 50% to the upside, GP. But I'm just telling you, this is what this market is giving us. And if we can't recognize that 10 months into this deal, what the fuck are we doing?
That's fine. You can be in your little bear cave. I'll be somewhere else. I don't go far.
NVIDIA, I love. Whoop, keep going, baby.
Bags, you think so? Pulling up a chart of like the SPY. I kind of go back to it really feels to me like that 300 is the magnet. You know, like,
well, I think the 2021 breakout right here, which we basically bounced off of last week, and then the pre-COVID highs, this little area right here to me is so important, Nick.
Yes,
like
exactly.
if it can't hold that, it's like in serious shit.
We're done. We're done. If we break this area, I'm not even joking. It's done for years, right? Like it's not like I 100% have thought this for a really long time, which is why I've been trying to be more optimistic. Is if we break this down, this is a huge breakdown. So I agree that we're in a very precarious area that potentially, and I know everyone's been talking about it, but I've been talking about it since last year about Amazon and stuff like that. Like stuff just didn't look that great. I want to be an opportunistic trader. I waited till Amazon came down to 2,700 and then started buying, and I'm still hurting, right? Like I'm not arguing that.
Yeah. But Nick, back to your 300. I mean, that was the pre-COVID breakout, right? And then that was an area that it kind of consolidated on there after the COVID lows. So yeah, I mean, if this area breaks, 300 is a very logical spot to me.
Yeah, I'm not as concerned about that like
we look at the volume
20 to 330 area. I'm more concerned about because I think that if we start, like, let's say Tesla, Amazon, Google, the bigger names within the NASDAQ, if they start to really roll, then we're going to see the capitulation that I think someone that really wants to see capitulation, like that's what we're going to see. And those are the last names that are going to roll hard. Everything else has been absolutely demolished.
Can you tell me why Apple isn't breaking?
It is.
It's not.
It is.
But it isn't.
Yeah, I think it is too. Like it's below the 200 day, it's below the 50 day. The moving averages are all converging down. It's definitely holding up better than others.
137.98 is the post-split high. We have now tried to break that 3 times, right? And maybe it breaks after this, but to me, it's like it had every opportunity to destroy that this prior week, and we didn't. And maybe it breaks down this week, maybe it doesn't.
Living on the edge.
And let's
play some Aerosmith, baby. Living on the edge.
Tesla and Apple, the monthly charts look very similar.
Tesla broke down and Apple didn't, right?
Exactly.
Tesla did break down.
Tesla earnings this week too, right? Tesla earnings this week, right?
Yep.
That looks like a shit show ready to happen.
But it's still holding the S&P bar.
For now.
Right?
Remember, I mean, I'll quote myself again because Mr. Holding Bags has such great quotes. You tread water until you're fish food.
I think I would put money down. This is where my mouth is. I think that Tesla, Apple, all of those hold those round numbers. I think that we could very well see. Like I don't remember who I was chirping with on Twitter, but
so we've talked a lot. And sorry, Nick, I'm butting in here. We've talked a lot of tech, and we know tech looks like shit, and we know mega caps look like shit. But let's look at JP Morgan, right? JP Morgan has completely erased all of its 2021 gains, every single bit of it. All right,
and engulfed the prior 2 weeks.
Well, I'm not counting that shit until we see some reversal, right? We already put that out there. You look at Goldman Sachs, right? 2021, nothing there. Reverse cup and handle. Oh, that's an interesting pattern. Let's go back to the SPY. What is that I see? Is that a reverse cup and handle? It might be. I don't know. But since we're liking patterns and candlesticks right now, like we may as well call it that. I want the market to do well. You guys know I do. I don't like being bearish, right? Like it's just not my nature, but I got to call it like I see it. And for 10 months, we've been on the sideline like, yeah, come on, baby. We got to be bullish again. And just willing it ain't happening.
Nah.
So you got to be a realist and look at what the price is telling you. Price is number one. Anyway, back to Apple, right? This is what got this whole conversation started. Like Apple is just hanging on by a thread. Yeah, it hasn't broke down yet. Sentinel One didn't either yet.
If there's money hiding out, that's where it's at.
Oh, hanging on by a thread, right? Like you see a pattern here. Like you see similar charts. I mean, I can pull up more. I charted about 50 this morning. I still think Tesla's the most important one out there, aside from maybe Apple and Google. And Tesla already broke that neckline. United Health breaking down. All right, United Health's a big component of the S&P. Taiwan Semi, leader of the biggest semiconductor. Batman, right up here in bold letters. Batman. I don't like having to be this way, but it is what I'm seeing. Again, I love a nice 10% on the S&P this week. GP, I would absolutely love it. I would be a frothy bull. I'd be rubbing myself. Y'all couldn't stop hearing me. Like I would be shouting it from the rooftops. But we got 4 weeks and time's ticking, in my opinion.
I love you guys. This is so
I got
great.
nothing to say. I'm just gonna
share yours. Share by all means. Share yours.
Screw this. No more. You want to shut me down? It's okay.
I'm not shutting you down. It's just reality.
No, I like
GP's walked out of the building.
Listen, I hear you. I'm not saying all the charts don't look ugly. And Duzio said it best. It's a quote that's been used. They don't ring the bell at the bottom, right?
That's right. They don't. Yeah.
They ring the bell at the top every single day, but they don't ring the bell at the bottom. So what we do is try to figure out what makes sense. And Thursday's reversal, to me, was pretty important, right? They can negate that. I'm not saying they did not negate it on Friday. They can negate it tomorrow. I think all of into it this weekend was expecting a Black Friday Monday crash type stuff, and we are sitting here right now on the futures green. I'm not saying it can't turn red on some weird Euro news overnight.
I looked at the futures. Go ahead. Sorry.
Futures are pretty bright green. Small caps are holding on really well comparatively. Regional banks are doing pretty damn well. JP Morgan, yes, doesn't look great, but on a day like Friday when everything reversed hard and could have easily just destroyed everything on earnings, right? What a great day to sell the shit out of JP Morgan would be the day it had earnings. You could mask all your volume. It did not. It struggled to stay green for sure, but it did not break down. So it's always
sorry.
Right. I'm not arguing it. Everything has made lower lows consistently. I'm not arguing any of that stuff. I'm in the camp that we are at a point where if we don't reverse, we are going to experience the seventh coming of hell, right? Like that's my opinion. And maybe
we're already like in the fourth right now.
Right. And maybe your 300 magically holds because all of a sudden people are like, oh, 300 is the great place to buy after losing 40%. Sure. I think the rhetoric that is already coming out, retracing this rally or like up here is kind of like that. Like if it's kind of, we're starting to hear that. Like we're starting to hear like, if we don't hold here, if we do this, it's going to be super ugly. It's already been extremely ugly. That's why I just kind of think that what a lot of us are missing, and myself largely included, is that my thesis was right and I was on the right side of a lot of these trades all year, yet my timing was off and my
my concept of time, like in terms of how fast it was going to take for these things to play out, just wasn't on point, I think. And so I'm trying to like disregard kind of this, the whole COVID, this, I'm trying to disregard this breakout, all of this, and just kind of pay attention to this base right here. If the cues are starting to roll here and we measure the move from, let's say, like here to here, where we're getting is basically down to this 220. I will bags whatever you want. If we hold 222 on the cues, if we bottom out at 222 on the cues, you name it, I'll fucking streak around the fucking block or whatever it is.
Streak around the fucking blocks at 222.
Dude, yeah. I think that this is a big zone here.
Yeah. And
we could find support or, you know, put in a capitulation low anywhere in here. So it's tough for me to get into the camp that if we don't hold here, it's gonna get super bad. I think it's gonna get bad just because of what.
Well, that's another 14 or 13.5% down, right?
Right, but what's gonna take the cues down? It's gonna be Tesla, Google, Amazon.
Yeah,
those big names, and that's what's gonna see the pull in, and that's gonna be the final straw that knocks out, let's just say, the smarter retail money.
Yeah, that's next week, right? All the megas are next week.
Yeah, and Tesla 200 SMA I think is 156. Apple's is 108. You're looking at a 30% decline or 25% decline in Apple, and you think 222 is going to hold?
I don't know. I just
I'm sorry, right?
Saying,
like
I think it's this window. And the measured move, if you measure this leg down and you're calling this kind of your, let's say, A, B, C, your D point is right down here at 222. And typically when these measured moves hit, we see a reversal. It's, whether or not it's a major bottom, I couldn't tell you. I don't know. But I'm just saying, I think that we find, again, it's the optimist in me. I think that this is a big zone here where anything is possible.
Yeah, to me, from here, if we break down, the volume profile starts to matter around 190, and it accelerates around 164, and then underneath that, it's even the next biggest support is 110. I don't think we're going to get to 110. I'm not arguing that. Is based on the complete lack of volume, I think you have a vacuum, right? This is not a whatever. This is a conversation of it's a vacuum of when you have nothing to support. It's where it finds support is where it used to find support. Does that mean that support all of a sudden is going to create this magical fairy bounce that all of a sudden you could buy whatever you want and things are freaking amazing? No, we get down there. Like, to me, if we go back to 222, 190, 164, we're at a point where we're sideways for years, right? Yeah. Like I look, whatever level, if we don't hold this, I don't want to be involved, right? I don't want money to be sitting and doing nothing for me.
Well,
that's me personally. Trading is a different story. I'm talking about investing, right? Like this is
sure.
You can trade all you want and do whatever you want. You can catch your zero DTEs. You can be a degenerate. Fine. That's not the reference point.
Well, I mean, from the investor's point of view, I mean, this is where relative strength scams come in. You know, like the market and the indexes, sure. Like, let's just say we create this big kind of like, we do roll down here and it just gets real messy. As long as you're paying attention to the relative strength, the names that are the strongest are going to be near their own respective all-time highs, no matter what the indexes are doing.
Could be a decade from now, though, right? Like if you're looking back at history,
very true. Yeah.
If you're looking back at history, when you have had these huge moves down, we're on the NASDAQ composite, I think we're at 40% already, right? And to me, if you start getting to 50% retraces and more, which is what you're talking about, this is not something you recover from in a month or 3 months or 6 months or 12 months, right? So I think I think
we're already already past that.
Yeah, and I give the example of Roblox, right? Roblox, I like to chart long term, right? Long term. And based on the weekly, I like the accumulation that's going on here. I like the setup. This is what I like to see from newer IPOs, right? They have. I typically don't get involved in IPOs the first 12 to 18 months because there's a lot of market dynamics that people are trying to cash out. It's a changing of investors, right? The VCs are cashing out, new investors are coming in. So what I like to see on this chart is that you've seen accumulation across the board, but this could gyrate between, let's say, 20 and 53 for the next 5 to 10 years, right?
Sure.
Like I'm not saying but like if we start to break down these levels, like if something fundamentally breaks in the market there, to me, and this is why I don't like to be bearish, because what I saw last year when I was talking about like the Amazon comparison to Microsoft and the XLF being one of the last leading sectors of all secular bull markets, is that what that comes after is a pretty disgusting move, right? And by disgusting, I mean frustrating, I mean confidence erosion, I mean sideways, I mean like a really long period of nothingness, right? It's the apathy that comes into the market. So if we don't hold this area, I think we get into an apathetic market. Look, bags already. I
think we're already in an apathetic market.
Yeah. My point exactly, right? If we go down another 30% from here,
it ain't hot girl summer.
It's no summer, right? It's the fucking winter, right? It's so you're already like I'm trying to give bullish cases and bags sitting here like, no, nothing has followed through, so screw you, right? but
show me the lie.
But that's the sentiment I'm talking about here. That doesn't magically change if we go down another 15% from here, right? Or
so
20% or 30%.
Let's take a trip down memory lane, right? In February and March of 2022 or 2020, where everything was falling apart, right? We were having limit downs. No one knew what the hell was going on in the world, right? Like it was, for a lot of us, it was a scary time, and people were just wanting out of this market, right? And they were proven wrong, obviously, because midway through March, we had one of the most epic bounces in market history. I mean, we basically, from top to bottom, right, we went like 143% on the Qs from the bottom of the COVID crash to the top back in November. And that's just an incredible ride. Like that's life changing. But there were so many people that were scared, right? That even as the market climbed, and many of us didn't get on board initially, but we were on board either in April or May, there were still non-believers all the way up, even through the summer when we broke out over the pre-COVID highs, which is astonishing in and of itself. Right? Like there's just a lot of non-believers. And then you get up until September, you lose some. You get up into October and election day, you lose some. But what did the market do? It never followed through to the downside. It just kept chugging along to the upside. Now, if you take your charts and you invert them, you're going to see a very similar thing that is happening, right? And we're just chugging on to the downside. We think we have a minute. We think we have a minute, and it goes up, but then the follow through is to the downside. There's no, just like bears were wanting follow through in 2021 on any of these set, 5% weeks to the downside. They never got it. Just like we're wanting some follow through to the upside, us bulls in 2022, we're not getting it. And I'm not saying that we're going to retrace the entire move of what happens. I don't know where the bottom is, but right now I haven't seen anything to make me think like we're going to V out of it, right? We're going sideways to eventually turn. Like there's just nothing right now for me to be all of a sudden like frothy bull. And
is that what I sound like?
No. But I'm just telling you guys, we've been doing this for 10 months. And like, I'm a bull's bull, right? And one of the things we said, I think back in February or even in March was, when the last bull turns bear, then you're near a bottom. Well, I might be one of the last bulls. Obviously, GP's hold that line for me tonight. But like I'm not a downside better. I'm not thinking like the global economy, the US economy is in the shitter going to zero. Like that's just not how I'm wired to think. But right now, price action has told me since basically December of 2021 that something is happening that I'm not paying a close enough attention to. I'm either wanting to look at RSI, I'm looking at volume, I'm looking at volume profile, but price is doing what price is doing. And I've got to pay more attention to that. Anyway.
I mean, from a non-technical point of view, I think all that we really need to say is that the money supply is contracting. Just pay attention to what the Fed's doing.
There is no more free money.
Yeah, right. As soon as they start printing money again, or perhaps maybe the second, interest rate / the second consecutive, where the trend, obviously changes where they are printing money again. I think that's really what we're probably.
Well, in fairness, right? We've got all those reports that came out last week.
Yeah.
And, Fridays was right. Inflation was still hot, or Thursdays was inflation is still hot. Really, I mean, I don't know that the government really calculates housing and real estate properly, because I still look at Zillow, even though we got a new house, and there are price slashes everywhere. There's properties that have been on the market since we closed on this one. We had one down the street that was on the market longer than our house that we just bought, that just finally sold after about a $60,000 price cut. Right. So inventory's staying on longer. And I think, in the housing market, inflation is, I'm not calling the bottom here, but inflation is making an impact, and it's less. I think I was listening to Jeremy Siegel, and I picked up some of what he had to say. And it sounded like he was in the same camp that, inflation on housing has already rooted and it's already bottoming. Like it was, instead of being up 0.7% or whatever it was for the whole, housing's down more than a 1% in real world what's going on, not what the government's reporting. So we GP, we could be at a bottom, right? Like we could be forming that bottom. This could be the first step of making that base or even being out of it. I don't know, but I'm just looking at price. It's hard for me to get excited to the upside right now. Give me that 10% week, and I'll streak around the house.
I want to see 222 hold. I want 222 to be the bottom, because I think that would be
on the Qs
absolutely comical. Yeah. That would coincide with, let's say, like 111.11 on the.
Yeah, I've got it marked here like at 220, but yeah, 220.
You can round
222, 222. There it is. Yeah. Bam. I'm sorry. I love you.
Oh
man, he's giving you the silent treatment.
I got nothing for you guys. I just don't. I don't have much for you, right? In terms of, I can't argue the charts. The charts.
I think that's where we're all at too. Like
the charts are garbage. Yeah. I just right. Like Apple is holding. I hear you. It's 3 weeks tight if you are looking at it. To be honest,
is it 3 weeks tight? Yeah, we can call that 3 weeks
Oh
tight.
yeah,
for sure.
yeah, we can.
Yeah, you can.
Joe G was right though. Remember Joe G said right there, he was targeting below 148 or whatever. Joe G won a chalupa.
Fantastic. You called the bear call in a bear market, and you were right. I'm happy for you.
Yeah, no, I mean he wins a chalupa.
Just like, yeah, like it's the what I'm not arguing that the charts don't look like garbage. They all
It's
look
holding
like
that 120 weekly though. Okay, there you go. Look at that.
Yeah, and pointed that out. It's been a strong area of support for a really long time. It's holding the and it's a 3-week tight. Maybe it's not right. 138.2, 140.09, and 138.30. Right. So if that's can slim, I know it's supposed to be in an uptrend, right, Nick? But it's still 3 weeks tight.
Yeah. No, I was agreeing with you in terms of the 3-day. I think you can definitely argue that it would be like you could say it's a bear flag, but yeah, you're right. Like Apple's in an uptrend, so
yes,
right. Like
so
if your trend is based on the last 10 months, you're right. It's a downtrend. But if it's based on the last fucking decade and a half,
right,
it's an uptrend.
Yeah, exactly.
So is the SPY, right? So the SPY is still in a forever uptrend. Like I'm not arguing that shit at all.
No, the Qs aren't, right? Like I think they've actually broken their uptrend a bit. But that's so like to me, if you guys think Apple is on the verge of breaking down, right? Like let's put this out because Apple, I think, is 12 or 14% of the Qs.
I'd kind of give the Q something like that, GP. I mean, if it were me.
Yeah, that's a really long. Go to a log chart, right? Like it's breaking.
It is log.
It is log?
Yeah.
Interesting. But now if you draw it from the 2009 bottoms, which is where you should be drawing it.
Oh, thanks. Thanks for telling me how to do my art.
Oh, this has been the best one yet. This has been the best one yet for sure.
There you go, GP.
No. You can't draw
to,
1 point.
Just to make you happy.
I'm going to do a private tutoring session. How about that?
No, I'm good.
Trend lines are subjective, so I'm taking the piss. But it to me is like if this is an inverse cup and handle, right? That you're talking about on an Apple. Apple's 200-day moving average is 108. That's $30 down from here. It is 12% or 14% of the Qs, right? Like you're seeing a potential 25% move down in a 12 to 14% weighting of the Qs. It's going to destroy everything, right? Like it's not going to just be related to Apple. If they're hiding out in this and they're now going to sell it after distributing, if you want to call it distribution at the top here, then what's not going to be sold is my question to you guys. And you can argue, right? Nvidia's book value is say because their growth is now negative growth. Ultimately, you can say the book value is 1 times revenue. 1 times revenue puts it at 29 to 30 billion. That is another 90% haircut on Nvidia from here.
Yeah, I'm not really bullish on that. Them anyway. I think those are. I mean, I think Nvidia's heading back to 70s.
It's going to 0.
I mean, I don't think it's going to 0.
Yeah, no, I've got like a 70. Yeah, like that breakout.
70, 80s. Yeah.
No, if it keeps rolling, it's going to roll back to here.
That's kind of rolling. It's going back to 30.
I mean, we can do that too. I mean, there's
why stop? Why not just sell it all?
I started with the 0. You motherfuckers who were the one up in the bid.
But it could, if you go back to, if everything is getting revalued, right? It's a multiple contraction conversation. Square is trading at like 1.5 times revenue, right? It's 31 billion, and I think it makes 21 billion a year or something like that. So, and at its peak, it was trading at like 10 times revenue. So if you want to talk about NVIDIA could potentially come back to 30, right? If we're revaluing everything back to 1 to 2 times revenue or times EPS or whatever, you can argue that it's going to come back down to like the 20s, and that's going to be miserable for everyone.
Sure.
Everything's miserable for everyone unless you're playing 0 DTE puts.
Yeah, and that's fantastic, right? Because
it's not fantastic.
No, it's fantastic for the people.
It's profitable, but it's not fantastic.
It's fantastic for the people who are catching it. I like, hey man, I caught the reversal on Thursday. It was great.
I was work got in the way.
Right. So and Netflix was my choice of horse for the most part, and it worked out really well. And like I'm not talking about trading. One, like, I think those are the two different conversations here.
Yeah.
I'm just people catch things all the time in between and whatever. So that's not that. You also see the VIX underperformance overall. The move in the USD JPY is just beyond long in the tooth. This is just getting pummeled. I don't like the rhetoric from the government because they're like, we don't really care.
Yeah.
Right? Take this, plebeians. Now you're serfs.
Yeah. So like they taking opinions from the president who's worth $20 million, the vice president who's worth $22 million, and talking about how they give two shits about the poor people. Right. Just like it's earn $35,000 a year as a civil servant and tell me that you really care and we'll talk. Right. So I don't want to talk politics too much, but every regime sucks. And this one is on a mission. Dude, we had the Fed president come out, what was his name? Bullard, on a Saturday just to say,
fucking Bullard.
Just on a Saturday to be like, you think we're going to do anything? We already sold all our stocks for 1,000% gains, right? We don't give two damns about what happens to this market. And
it's interesting, like when the Pelosi stuff was like hitting the news, like Congress, like being able to trade off inside information, that kind of shit.
Yep.
And it was like, well, yeah, right.
But the recipe was all there, Nick, right? Like, in terms of cycles, you had like that's I talked about it with SPACs, like not on our podcast, but like through my stock posts is like, I don't want anything to do with SPACs. I thought Chamath was a swindler. I don't like him, and that got proven true. If you could go public, you would go public via the public markets, via an IPO, not a SPAC, right? So the red flag to me was there was companies that had questionable financials going public to the markets without the regular channels, and that never ends well. And Davy Day Trader, all that stuff was all recipes for distribution, right?
Ain't that the truth?
Like, so when you get the final nail in the coffin of the retail participation, and everyone was making money hand over fist, it was time to step the hell out. And then you also had financials showcasing
the time to step the hell out was when our guy from Microsoft was selling. Like, he has been impeccable at timing the market, and he got out the week before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, but he's gotten out a bunch of times, right? Like, so
fucking nailed it.
This time he nailed it. He also sold at 180. He sold half, right? Like, and he didn't nail that one. So to me, that stuff is not important. But the greatest allocator of money in the last 20 years, Jeff Bezos, stepping down in April of 2021.
What would Warren Buffett do? Is he sitting there like, I am ready with a fucking wad of cash, just I want to buy all these fucking companies.
He's almost dead though, isn't he?
He's 40% Apple.
Yeah.
No. But he's got cash. Is the point is I'm making, not that he has to sell Apple or do anything with his Apple from like the single digits cost. He's got cash. The point is, what's going on in his mind? What do you think he's planning on doing? Not that I follow Buffett's trades, but is he willing to sit this out, or is he finally starting to see companies at good values that he's going to deploy?
He's going to hold on to the cash because his chart looks like a head and shoulders, and he's on the verge of success. He's having a successor. I think the heydays of Berkshire Hathaway and stuff are probably coming to an end in general. That's my personal opinion. That he's done really well for a really long time, but as soon as you get new management, look at Jassy, right, for Amazon.
Yeah.
It usually just it creates years of uncertainty until it be proven out, right? Like if you look at Apple, right? Apple, when Tim Cook took over in 2000, is it 11 or 13? I can't
Cash
remember.
machine,
right? No, but it was sideways, right? It didn't do anything for a really long time. I think it was 2013. I don't remember when it was. 2011. But we sold off on Tim Cook, Steve Jobs dying, Tim Cook taking over, and he turned out to be the greatest operator that Apple has seen in terms of stock value, right? But there was a point, and I think if you're looking at Berkshire Hathaway, it looks like a head and shoulders on the weekly to me. And just
I would like to look at Berkshire Hathaway. I was thinking about just pulling that up.
Pull up BRK, not B.
BRK. Oh, I'm sorry, Mister. I've got $100,000 here.
No, 412,000. Nice try, though.
No, but you can buy a fraction.
That was another retail tell. Buy a quarter of a share.
Oh my God, I know. I remember that too. I was like, this cannot be good.
It's micro distribution. It's hilarious, right? Like, but look at the volume on that head of Berkshire Hathaway's, right?
Yeah, it looks head and shouldery.
That is a prototypical head and shoulders pattern.
You know what else I mean, it's not a perfect one, but it's got that going on.
It's just where the volume occurred, right? That's where it is for me. Like, it looks very similar to Boeing before Boeing became Boeing. And then,
we don't have any questions this week. We must have really entertained with our shit talking to each other. while I'm in the shit talking mood,
just let him keep talking.
You know, guys know I love making fun of bears more than life itself, so it kind of pains me to be one right now. But someone passed me along a LinkedIn post by someone who claims to be a portfolio strategist and finance professor, and I'm going to read this to you. All right, I'm going to quote it word for word. And this is the kind of FUD that's out there in the world. And this is why we may be closer to a bottom. But anyway, I will leave this guy.
Now you want to turn into a bull?
No, I'm always a bull. I'm always a bull, but right now there's no reason to be bullish. So I'm not going to say this guy's name because this is embarrassing, but it's a horrifying thought. But exchange data tells that one investor is positioning for the launch of a tactical nuclear missile in Ukraine by March 2023. This is real. I'm not making this up. The investor has paid 19 cents per contract for 50,000 VIX at 150 strike call options that expire in March of 2023. Let me translate this trade into English. Somebody out there expects the volatility index to rise from its current 32 to as high as 150 by March of 2023. No, this is not a typo. 150 on the VIX. This trade sent a chill up my spine, as we have never seen the stock market's pendulum of greed and fear spike up to 150, not even on a day Al-Qaeda terrorist attack or when Lehman failed on 9/15/2008. The only credible scenario for a 150 VIX would be a Kremlin nuclear strike, as Putin has threatened the world multiple times, voicing the unthinkable that not even Stalin, Khrushchev, or Brezhnev ever dared to do in the Cold War. All right, so this is.
I mean, what would that be, like SPY 150?
Well, regardless, this is laughable to me.
We're gonna go back to 2008 and
because if this fucker is really a portfolio strategist, one, he has no idea what might cause a VIX to spike like that. Like, he has no clue what that might be. Two, like, if you just take the 19 cents per contract on 50,000 contracts, that's less than $1 million, right? Like that. So this isn't like some large hedge. And as we all know,
it's a gambler, right?
Exactly.
Like don't make the relationship to an investor. An investor is not buying way out of the money. That's some gambler who if he's right.
But we all know, right? Like, you don't have to have your contracts hit their strike to be profitable, right? Like, all you need is a significant spike, and that 19 cents becomes 30 cents.
Right.
Exactly. You know what I mean? So anyway, I was at this morning and I just laughed my ass off. I just laughed and cackled and but this is the type of shit that gets put out there, and someone who doesn't pay attention to the market sees that, and it has them selling on Monday when they shouldn't be, or it has them selling on Tuesday when they shouldn't be. Anyway, I just wanted to share that.
And so
that's how stupid some bear theses are.
But to me, right, that's $1 million, right? Why not buy $1 million at the money calls? They're
950 grand if we're being exact.
950,000, and then buy the 32.5 calls, and you get less contracts for sure, but you also capture 120 points, right? Like, it makes no sense. To be that those are usually,
the person who made that bet and the poster on LinkedIn are both Boo Boo the Fool.
I don't know who that is, and I'm already disgusted that we had to listen to this guy's name. And, but so to me,
I was making that up. Boo Boo the Fool, just like To
me, when we see these types of big out of the money contracts, it's usually the end of that cycle of the VIX, right? Like, it looks like it's a buy, but it's actually some crazy hedge kind of like sold or whatever it is. It's a very complex strategy, my personal opinion. If you're looking at the VIX for March 2023, I'm looking at it. There's 200,000 contracts at 75. So that could have been part of a long dated call spread, right? Like, we don't know.
It's FUD. It's ignorance and FUD.
Yeah. So like that stuff doesn't, that like, if you look at XBI, I'll give you an example of this, right? I think I called it out too. And go to the daily chart pattern, chart.
Got volume on already, baby.
No, not volume.
I was just saying, I already got it on for you.
On September 9th, we had a buyer of, I think, almost 100,000 calls for November 100. Or 50,000 or 20,000 or so. It was some ridiculous size, right? And what has it done since?
Pooped.
And it was across the boards, like, oh, this is a buy. This is like, even the people I respect who analyze this stuff a lot better than I can, were like, wow, that's a big buy, right? And it's literally done jack.
You lost a lot of money.
Yeah. Those contracts, I believe, were bought for like $2.25. They are now sitting at 29 cents.
So how was close?
20. They've lost 90% of their value since that trade has gone through. And yeah, maybe it goes above 100 by November, and they don't care about the interim and stuff like that because they can see the future. But those the VIX trades, these trades happen all the time, and they get shown everywhere. And then sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. What I've been paying attention to, I'm not paying attention to that flow. I'm paying attention to the intraday flows that are coming in, because that seems to be what's guiding the market, right? Like it was, if you were watching the flow on Friday, it was bullish to open, and then in came the sellers within 1 to 2 minutes of the open of like, if you're looking at Square, that was one example I posted about. They were selling the piss out of October 63 calls, right? And it literally it couldn't get out of the way, right? That was 19,000 calls got sold within the first like half an hour or 45 minutes of Friday on Square, right? This opportunistic traders, it's whatever it is. Roku, yeah, dude, it's already down 90%. Like markets go down another 40%. This is going bankrupt, right? Like it's kind of nuts to me, the moves that have already happened while the market is only down 40%, right? Like I think we talked about
what are you expecting from your baby this week, GP?
Me?
Yeah.
I personally think it's going to be sideways. And then January is the one that we got to be paying.
So plus or minus 1%.
So like reading through like their earnings on Netflix, 40% of their earnings comes from domestic sales and 60% comes from international sales. International sales are going to take a big hit on revaluation, right? The strong dollar is going to hurt those a lot, but the strong dollar is also going to help their 40%. So I think personally, they probably come in line or slightly below or slightly above, which is not going to push the needle personally. And I think it's going to be January that we'll see the real move. But it's Netflix, right? It's been accumulating and distributing for 6 months now, so it's been hard to peg down on the move. And I was a lot more bullish a couple of weeks ago, and the last few weeks they've just destroyed my confidence on.
I presumed I wanted to ask both you and Nick, what are we watching this week? And I jumped into it because I presumed Netflix is what you would be watching this week, GP. But
Netflix and Tesla are important, right? Like those are
yeah, for sure.
Those are heavy hitters, and a lot of Tesla sales are now international, so the strong dollar is going to hurt it. Yep. So I'm not fairly optimistic on Elon. Seems to always pull the rabbit out of the hat. But I don't know if he can make up for the currency reval personally. And maybe that's why it's sold off 40%. So it's priced in, and I just don't know, right? What's priced in or not. So Tesla and Netflix are definitely the two that everyone's going to be watching. I think what really, there's a few things that I can share the NASDAQ composite chart that I was looking at.
Go for it.
So this is a weekly chart. Hold on 1 second. I got to present.
While you're finding that, Nick, what are you watching this week?
Tesla. Other than that, I don't really like that. I'm kind of in your camp. I just don't really. My interest. I've given enough money to the market this year to really give a shit until we.
I've given enough shits that I have no more shits to give.
Yeah, I want to see a real bottom put in. I want to see like a nice like ABCD leg up. I want something.
Yeah, show me something, right? Show me something.
So can you see my NASDAQ composite chart here?
We can.
Okay. So I was just, I play around with stuff, and this is like the trend line, and we had a similar kind of.
I have to give you a private lesson on trend lines.
Yeah, it depends on how you draw them, right? But when you have multiple confluences on trend lines, horizontal or
I love those.
or diagonal, it's something to pay attention to, right? And we obviously have to see price action. come through. I do like that we tagged the kind of the breakout here in 2020. We held. Friday wasn't the greatest of bars. We held this trend line, just like in 2000, the 2018 to 2020 kind of trend line. We held, and this candle, after it broke down nasty here, like we kind of had here, we had a 10% move that week. That was coupled with the Fed coming in and saying unlimited QE for life, and there's no inflation. It's all transitory to wherever the fuck they're spewing now. So that was the catalyst. So I'll need to see something like that for this to kind of happen. And I don't think it's going to be unlimited QE all of a sudden, right? I don't think they changed the tone on that. But the USD JPY chart is what I'm watching. A break of that will relieve a lot of pressure, and that could cause if you're looking at the options market on the Qs, dude, there's not a single call in the money right now. It's all puts, right? And like heavy puts. So I think there's potential for a huge week this week, but that's what I'll be watching. And if we break this,
but not 15% GP.
Maybe 8 to 10 is possible. But you have to have a lot of stars and stuff aligned. So it's just what I'm watching. I saw this on my charts, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting, because it basically in 2020 came back and tested a horizontal trend line after 2 years, similar to what's going on here.
Yeah.
And the same 35 to 40% move down, right? Albeit this was in 5 weeks, and this is a miserable 11 months of breaking and dying. So I'm just watching here that we could potentially put in this type of week. I'm not a bull by any case in this current. This is not a place to put money to work. If we do hold here, it's definitely time to start paying attention. And Thursday's bar was different for sure. And it's something to watch. And if we break this, I'm out, right? I'm taking the losses, and I'll see you guys in 10 years.
Yeah, I'm waiting for Tuesday and Wednesday. It'll be interesting to me to see how we open on Tuesday when we've got Goldman and J&J reporting, and then it'll be interesting to see how we close with Netflix.
Yeah,
and then Wednesday, we don't have a big bank reporting. I think the next one that we have would be
Tesla's
Thursday.
Wednesday, isn't it?
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Before the open, we'll have Abbott, which healthcare. So we'll see how they're doing, and then after the close is Tesla. I was going to say the next big bank or big financial services group would be Thursday, and that would be Blackstone Thursday before the open. But yeah, it's kind of a Tuesday Wednesday thing for me. I want to see what it looks like before and after on each day, and we'll see how that winds up Thursday and Friday. It is an OPEX week, so expect fuckery.
For 100% sure.
So we can guarantee that.
Are you guys looking at this? I put up the regional banks chart, and this is the one that kind of caught my eye as well. It's like this actually looks pretty good compared to all the other charts that we've been looking at.
Yeah, I always like the confluence of lines. So I do like the way it, sort of bounced up a little bit there 2 weeks ago. Ally reports on Wednesday. So Ally's a smaller bank that might give us some light at what regionals might look like.
How are you feeling about the energy sector these days? Are you still in big camp that it's still gonna roll hard from here, or
it's interesting to see what oil did last week. Sorry guys, I gotta go to dinner in a couple minutes, but it's interesting to see what oil did last week on the back of OPEC cuts and everyone thinking it wasn't a hard rejection, but it's something to watch.
Sure.
XLE seems to be the point that people have been hiding in, and I think I don't know if they're going to be able to hide much longer, right?
I don't like either one of them. I'll
Yeah.
just shoot you straight. I don't like either one of them. I mean, they both look like they have downside written in them. I mean, they could have an up week, right? But I don't expect them to be the places to hide, which I think is what GP's trying to insinuate.
Yeah.
It's lower lows, right? It's been lower lows since it peaked in June.
Yeah.
So it tried to break out higher at the end of August, got rejected straight down, had like this awesome candle last week, and then got rejected at that. So there's not a tremendous amount of volume, and so I'm cautious, but I don't like them. I haven't liked them. I did for almost a split second last week. I'm like, oh, maybe there's something to this, and then this week's reaction wasn't that great. So just something to watch. I'm like Nick, it's hard to put any money to work at this point in time.
Yeah.
Because if we break down here, we have much further downside, at least 222 in your book, if not lower on the Qs. So to me, like there's no value here, right? Like to put any money to work. Either you've already put money to work and you're waiting and you're gonna eat stops, or
GP, go get dinner.
Yep. Or you wait.
You're gonna get in trouble.
No, I'm good. But appreciate the talk, fellas.
Yeah,
Bags,
boys.
Yeah.
Bags, we are no longer friends, man.
We're brothers. All right, guys. Have a great night. Everybody, thanks for tuning in. We appreciate it. We'll try to be more civil with each other going forward, but it's all love. Take care.
No, man.